Welcome back, everybody, to the Drop Bear Perspective. I'm Phil, and today there's been an absolute travesty in the Australian court system, with the Supreme Court allowing the Palestinian protesters to essentially take over Sydney and the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Let's see what they've got to say.
To some breaking news now. New South Wales Police has lost its challenge to block pro-Palestine protests on the Sydney Harbour Bridge on Sunday. Sky News reporter Kaiser Shields will join us shortly with all of the latest details on that. But just confirming for you, the pro-Palestine protest will go ahead on Sunday on the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
What a joke. It was bad enough when they let the wokies take it over for the LGBT bloody march. Now, this is just their latest of many causes that they're pushing against the Western world to basically push the mad agenda of the left. And it doesn't help when we have a prime minister who is an absolute clown, who has supported the Palestinian terrorist Hamas since he was in university, and has been anti-Jewish since he was in university, is an outspoken Marxist/communist, and this is the man we have as our noble leader, Albanese, an absolute freaking clown.
Back home, and promising inflation numbers during the week are pointing to another interest rate cut in August. To talk about that and all the latest news in politics, Bondi Partner Senior Advisor Peter McGorran joins me at the desk. Peter, morning.
Good morning, Tim.
Interest rates in a tick, but will Australia follow France and the UK, Canada in moving closer to recognising a Palestinian state, do you think?
Of course we will,
undoubtedly. Prime Minister Albanese is approaching in a very considered...
It is absolutely guaranteed that Albanese will recognise Palestine as a state, and essentially promote the terrorists, which he has loved since he was in university. Anyone who doesn't believe he's going to do this is an absolute fool.
Careful way, but that's going to be the end result. And what are the consequences of that? Well, firstly, it could very well anger President Trump, the way he's penalised Canada with higher tariff rates because they've jumped the gun and announced recognition of the Palestinian state. But it also is meaningless, Tim. All these liberal democracy, Macron, Albanese, and so on, doesn't mean anything because that.
Now, we expect people like Macron to be outright on the leftist agenda. I mean, he did marry a man. So at the end of the day, that he's right at the tippy top of the leftist woke agenda. And yeah, of course, a clown as weak as Albanese is going to follow suit.
It's not going to influence the situation in Gaza and the West Bank and Israel. It's the Middle Eastern countries, the Arab countries, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, Egypt. They will decide the future of the relationship between Israel and the Palestinian territories. And thankfully, they've finally come out, condemned Hamas, said Hamas has to lay down its arms and its leaders must exile from Gaza. So that is a good start, but the issues will be resolved by the region, not by the political posturing of foreign leaders.
The PM heads to the UN General Assembly in New York in September next month. The Middle East issue will obviously be front and centre.
Unquestionably, but the humanitarian crisis in Gaza has to be resolved before then.
It's grim, isn't it? It's pictures like we've seen the US envoy there this morning.
Yeah, it's shocking, and Trump and the US are stepping in.
That is our weak and noble leader. What a pathetic piece of shit we call our Prime Minister. And as for the crisis in Gaza, with claims of mass starvation and whatever, you see how many fat, Palestinians there are in these videos. Pay attention to how fat most of these people are. That's nearly 2 years of war, and yet they're claiming that they have been starved. It's just anyone. I can't believe people fall for the lies.
Directly, all the pressure on Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli government from Europe is not working, but the Americans will shift them. So I think there'll be an improvement, at least in the food supply to Gaza population before.
Yeah, there was an improvement in the supply when Israel and the US took over and actually made sure that people in Palestine actually got the food. And they said to the Israeli and the US forces, it was the first time that they had been given food since the start of the conflict, because Hamas takes everything and then sells it to them. Now, this weak ass piece of shit here, he will not get. I will be absolutely amazed if he ends up getting a meeting with President Trump, because this sniveling piece of shit will not stand up and be humiliated for his stupid decisions running our country.
Then I think Ukraine and Russian war might be an even bigger issue than the Middle East come September UN meeting, because Trump is going to go Putin and Russia. We're already seeing signs of it. There's only two countries that are keeping the Russian economy afloat: China and India, because they buy oil from Russia in defined.
Now, at the end of the day, the war can end like that between Israel and Hamas. It's not between Israel and Palestinians, between Israel and Hamas. Hamas has to release the prisoners. They still have prisoners. Nobody wants to talk about this. And they give up and just leave. And then the war is over. And considering the fact that still less than 60,000 people have been killed, and at least 20,000 of those are Hamas terrorists, and at least 5,000 of those died from natural causes, cancer, heart attack, etc. That's pretty good odds, considering the war's been going on for nearly 2 years. They're basically killing like 1.5 terrorists, or 1.5 people to every terrorist, sorry. So 1.5 civilians to every terrorist. That's the lowest casualty rate in the history of human beings. Absolutely. No other conflict has ever been able to have such low numbers of civilians being hurt. And yet, and at the same time too, Israel really has no obligation to have to supply aid to their enemy. It's like Ukraine being attacked, and then everyone's saying, "Oh, you've got to give Russia aid because they're attacking you." It's just an absolute joke. Please let me know what your perspective is on all this. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.